Welcome to Sometimes There's Side Eye, a podcast about two friends having real and unfiltered conversations about dogs and people. Listen as we talk about our lives with dogs, training, behavior, share some laughs, and a whole lot of banter. I'm Heather.
And I'm Christy. This episode is part of our sports series. If you haven't gone back and listened, we encourage you to start with episode 37 to get an introduction to dog sports. What are we talking about this week, Heather?
This week, we have another special guest in our sports series. We have Hoehle here with us, and we are excited to have her to talk to us about shed hunting. So, welcome, Eve.
Hello.
Thanks for
Hi.
being with us today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. And Eve is also the breeder of German short-haired pointers. What is your kennel name, Eve?
It is Von Major Sheds, German
Von
Shorthair Pointers.
Von Major Sheds. Yes. So Christy and I are familiar with Eve because we know one of the dogs that she bred and got to know her and from the local scene. And we did barn hunt together, now that I think about it.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's where we first met before Nisha was. I think that was even before Nisha was born.
That
We
is
started.
true. You had
I
Loretta
started barn
first.
hunt. Yep, and we bonded over our flexes, our group of Ford flexes.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I love it.
Yep.
And if you've been listening a while and you listen to our responsible breeding, Eve is actually who I told the story about when we were at the puppy party and I got to just like be a fly on the wall because I had my camera and I heard this breeder talking and I thought, if everyone could hear this conversation, they would understand there's responsible breeders.
Yep.
And Eve
Well,
is that
Christy, don't
person
make me
that was
cry
listening.
already.
Yeah. Yeah, you were having a conversation with a puppy buyer and Christy overheard it and she had referenced that conversation in our responsible breeding episode. So kudos to you.
Thank you. That I listened to it and definitely cried. So, but
Oh,
that's why I breed dogs is exactly that reason. So I appreciate people that recognize the passion that I have for my dogs and just dog breeding in general. So
yeah.
thank you guys for putting that forward into the universe.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we like to start every episode with a guest asking what dogs you live with and then what your favorite thing about each of them is.
I will start with the three main dogs that are like my permanent house dogs are always with me. I have my 8-year-old Loretta. She was my first German Shorthair Pointer. She is my heart dog, and she's just my everything dog. She was my first Arizona quail hunting dog. We learned everything about quail hunting together with pretty much no instruction. Just go out and hunt with your dog. I grew up hunting and did some quail hunting and duck hunting when I was younger, and then just went head first when I got her, and she's been my everything for the past 8 going on 9 years of her life. And I owe a lot of who I am as a dog trainer to her,
Mm,
and I will love her till the day she dies and beyond. My middle dog is Stevie. She's 4 years old. I purchased her as a secondary foundation bitch to my breeding program. If you know Stevie, you understand what a absolute goofball she is. She is just she's just a dork, but she's so reliable when it comes to training and just taking anywhere. I mean, Heather's seen her at
hmm
dog shows that she's just super chill anywhere she goes, and she's just that dog that you can take anywhere and trust that she is going to be stable in that environment. And I absolutely love that about her. She's an interesting dog to live with. I had her dad first, and she has every crazy Axel trait, which I love. Like for me,
Oh,
it's great, but
Axel.
and I'll mention Axel further into the interview, I'm sure.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, she's wild, but in the best way possible. She's finally at the point in her life that I can kind of leave her out with Loretta and trust her to not, do bad things, which is great. Doesn't have to be monitored 24/7. And then my third is Freddie, and Freddie is my Loretta grand puppy. And Freddie was at the puppy party that
Yes.
Christy attended at Heather's house, and she's just over 2 now. They turned 2 in March, I think was their birthday. Yeah, because the puppy party was in June, so they were born in March, and she is all hellfire. I mean,
Yes, she is.
she is on 24/7, but she's also like super sweet. She can be like very like sweet and cuddly and very human oriented, which I really like about the breeds. They're very into their people and not so I had a Labrador first and not like super social like a Labrador to strangers, but very into their humans. And so Freddie is like that, and I'm starting to see her hit that maturity stage, and she's going to be my first field champion. Cross my fingers. So that's super exciting for me, and hope to put a show championship on her and do all the things. And I'm just super excited about her future. She's a young dog, and I don't really push my young dogs very much like I did when Loretta was my one of two. So, it's different when you have multiples. And so I'm just letting her mature and develop like I did like with Stevie, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing. So that's exciting. And then my fourth right now is Nisha.
Oh, Nisha Ho.
Oh, the Nisha Ho. She is just the funniest dog. So she's a dog that I co-own with my best friend Megan. And Nisha has been with me 2 months here, 6 months there, since I sold her to Megan when she was 4 months old. And Nisha was out of my first Loretta litter. And I mean, I have Megan because of Nisha. Nisha is just everything to me. She is the funniest dog. I mean, all my dogs have like silly personalities, but she'll pick up a box, a cardboard Amazon box, and carry it around for hours. Like it's like the stupidest things that entertain her, which I love about her.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to meet the most fantastic German short hair pointer, everybody talks about Nisha. She has like this legacy, and it's so funny.
Nisha's kind of an enigma.
Yeah,
she really is.
I do get it's like you know when people see like this like well-trained Malinois and everyone's like, I want a Malinois based on that dog, and it's like no. You look at Nisha and you're
understand.
Like, actually, that's not normal.
And what's funny is that like to me and Megan's family, she's kind of a pain in the ass sometimes, but in like the best way possible. But it's like that's like the German Shorthair though. That is the breed. Nisha is every breed trait. You look at the breed standard, she is the breed standard. And when I bred Nisha's litter, I mean, she is exactly what I wanted to produce. I mean, literally, I couldn't have made her any different. I love her exactly the way she is. And no, she's not, kennel blind. She's not perfect. She is she's Nisha, and we love her for her.
Yep.
So that's my four. And I occasionally have, board and train extras, and I show some dogs and stuff. But those are my four right now. I usually keep a co-own in the hole to take places and train and stuff. So Nisha's my extra right now, but that's my house at the moment.
Nice. So how did you get started in dog sports in general? You said you started with Loretta, but you grew up hunting, so you had hunting dogs when you were a kid?
So this is kind of a long-winded story, but when I was a wee child, I remember watching Westminster Dog Agility, or of the type, and I grew up with boxers, and
I cannot imagine that.
I know. Is that insane? I will tell you, my dad was actually mad when I didn't get a boxer as an adult because they're totally like not my breed.
And they're totally my style.
Yeah, Christy,
I love them. They're great. Yeah. I enjoy them. I enjoy being around them, but it's just not my lifestyle, So anyway, I grew up playing agility in the backyard with my pet dog boxers, trash cans and broomsticks and
same here,
silly stuff. And I mean, my mom's got pictures of me that they took and videos on their camcorder, and I always really wanted to do agility, but I grew up showing horses. And my joke is that every dog person was once a horse person, typically, and the rich ones
Just
get to
gonna
do
say
both.
that.
We were too
So
poor for me to be a horse person, so I was just a dog person, but
there you go.
my parents showed dogs before I was born, so it makes sense.
Yep, and my mom, she showed our boxers. We were in boxers. My grandparents on my father's side imported their boxers when they came
Oh,
to America.
wow. Wow.
And then my grandmother showed boxers and bred boxers, and then my mom showed our boxers when I was younger. And so I mean, it's just not the breed for me. I love hunting dogs. One of my uncles was really into hunting when I was a kid, and he just kind of took me under his wing. And they had labs, and so I was around hunting labs. Fast forward to 18-year-old Eve, or I guess I was 19. Yeah, I was 19. I was with my ex-husband, and he showed up with a Labrador puppy one day and said,
Surprise.
hey, guess what? I brought home a puppy." And so that was Brantley. And at the time, I was working with a dressage trainer as her groom and her assistant trainer, grooming professionally. So I traveled all over the country showing and doing all that stuff. She did agility with her miniature American Shepherds. And I started taking Brantley to the barn with me as soon as he was like, as soon as he was done with his shots, he was coming to work with me every day.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "Hey, if you're interested, I'll give you the name of my trainer. She does scent work." And this was like, I mean, I don't think NACSW had been around very long at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It was very new as far as like that dog sport was concerned. And she was like, "It would be a good place for you to start if you're interested in dog sports." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great." So I think around 6 months was when I took him to his first class. And I lasted about 3 months and I was like, "This is too boring for me." No offense to the scent work people. I did most of his like basic obedience through Learberg online videos
Mm-hmm.
and kind of self-taught through that. It was a learning process. And then I did the scent work string for a few months and I found a different trainer that was pretty close to me. Her name is Nicole Kelly. She was previously with Sublime Canine and now she runs Piranha Dog Training in
Mm-hmm.
North Tucson. And so I signed up for one of her foundation agility classes that she was teaching. And I was on it every week. I was doing all my homework. We were really just loving the fact because I had, waited all this time to finally do agility and I was
To
so excited.
learn.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so excited. And Nicole took me under her wing. And honestly, I credit my whole dog training career to Nicole. She really
Wow.
gave me an excellent obedience foundation. She was a Schutzhund IPO person,
Mm-hmm.
bred Malinois, and did all that bite sport stuff. And so I got to learn all that kind of stuff from her. And I went head first. I'm one of those people that if I get involved in a hobby, it is knees deep. I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, dog sports is a slippery slope.
Oh, yes.
And so I think I competed with Brantley for the first time when he was around a year and a half. And that's when I brought Loretta home as well, was around that time. And I had no clue what I was getting into going from a Labrador to a short hair. Honestly, my breeder did not prepare me for that transition. But Nicole, she helped me along with the process, learning all those, "No, you have a tough dog now"
Mm-hmm.
things that was kind of, I felt like I really started becoming a dog trainer when I got Loretta and had to go through that puppy raising process with her. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's how I got into dog sports, and I've been doing I've tried everything. I think the only thing at this point I haven't tried probably is herding. And now that I'm involved in the Australian Shepherds, I'm
You're
gonna
going to get to do it.
probably try that next. So
Yeah. That's
just ticking it
awesome.
off the list.
Very well rounded. That's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about shed hunting and how that just
We know
I told Heather,
nothing.
yeah, we know
Okay.
nothing, but
Okay.
I told
I'll
Heather,
give
I'm
you
like,
the
I'm
spiel.
so excited about it because
Yeah.
like it seems like such a great sport.
And dumb it down for me. I
I will
need
dumb it down.
yes, perfect.
Okay. So at the basic level, I tell people that shed hunting is scent work, which is funny because I say I was not interested in scent work, but now I'm like all in on it, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
So shed hunting is scent work, but basically you're out in the open. So your dog has to be off leash reliable, which is super important. I mean, I use tracking collars, so there's that. But just on the base foundation, off leash reliability is really important in the
Right.
sport. And just
So this is not a sport for Trin. Okay, got it. Check.
yeah. Sorry, Heather. I mean, you can still. So this is what I tell people: shed hunting is a great sport for accessibility wise because you can just do it in your backyard, honestly. Like if your dog has an interest in antlers, you can do it in your backyard. So winding back, there's wild shed hunting, which is what got the sport started. That is, for those that don't know, deer, elk, any sort of antlered animal, typically once a year they drop their antlers and they grow new ones. And they go through this process every year in the spring. They drop their antlers and they just kind of leave them wherever they fall. And so everybody who buys those little tiny expensive pieces of antler, you're wasting your money.
You should instead invest in a dog who can hunt for them and train it for years.
Yes.
Exactly. The sport originated from people teaching their dogs to go pick up antlers out in the wild. It's essentially the training is the same for both things. It's basically a hide and go seek with antlers.
Yeah. So like at a novice level, do they have a smaller area and then that grows into a bigger area, or are there certain amounts that they find in each level?
As far as the competitions are concerned?
Yeah.
So there's 3 different organizations that are currently running shed dog type events. And I say that because it's kind of a varying degree of how serious it is. I personally compete in the UKC Elite Shed Dog Series. That was started after the original organization, which is called North American Shed Hunting Association, I believe. People call it NASHTA. And NASHTA and UKC are the same thing. It's just NASHTA allows e-collars with stimulation used on course.
Okay.
UKC only allows tracking collars and no stimulation allowed on course.
Okay.
So it's dependent on what you prefer, how well you can trust your dog, or if you choose to use those devices.
Yeah.
The other third-party option right now is North American Sporting Dog Association, I believe.
NASDA. I did a NASDA tryout with Trin. And I was amazed because in the shed hunting portion, Trin walked right up to the antler and grabbed it and started walking around with it.
And some dogs, they take to it right away, honestly. And I tell people if their dog has any desire to hunt for scent and pick up items, pretty likely your dog will do shed hunting.
Yeah, I think she would.
So there's that.
So and I feel like my brother's dog is the untrainable dog. She we have 4 people who have worked on Shake with her, and she's been with my brother for a year and a half. She's 7 years old. She will not shake. Now we're pretty convinced she knows what you're asking. She just doesn't want to do it. But shed hunt, if you let her out in the wilderness, she will bring you back a shed. She will go out and find them and then bring them back. But we're like,
it is
I don't know how to train that because she just does it and with she doesn't want people involved in it.
It's a specific smell. So the natural shed antlers smell different than anything that's been sawed off a skull. Like you have to have natural sheds for that, because really what they're smelling is the membrane at the bottom of the antler. So it's the blood, it's the bone that's on the inside of the antler that they're smelling. And in competition, we use scent sticks that are essentially the same thing emulated. Don't ask me, I don't know how they're made or what they're made of. I assume it's like ground up version of that, and then it's just you put it on the antler and that's what they use. And there's different varieties of scent sticks that you can get in stores, but for UKC specifically, we use Bone Clone, is what it's called. The competitions. So I'm going to talk about UKC because that's what I do.
Sure.
UKC, you are set on a open course. It can be on any terrain. So you can have water on course. You can be on a cut cornfield. You can be in totally leaf covered wooded area. I have hunted on a large variety of terrain. So that's in a football field sized course. It's 100 by, I think that's 100 by 50, if I'm correct. Something like that.
Something like that.
Something like that. Don't ask me. I just show up and do my thing.
You're not setting the course.
I do set courses, and I have set courses for like club and stuff, but that's not of my importance right now. So it's on a football field sized course, and it's split into 6 sections. So it's divide down the middle, and then half those, or I guess third that. And there will always be 5 antlers on course with one slot empty. So you don't know which slot is empty. That is a draw, or you can most competitions just randomize it and they put it on the back of your scorecard, which one is supposed to be empty in your section, basically. So there's 2 levels for UKC. There's working and there's champion. Working level is they have to find 4 antlers total, but there's 5 on the course. So they just have to find 4 of the 5. You can step away from your dog and encourage them once they pick up the antler, and the dog only has to bring it to like within reach, basically, of you. So if your dog doesn't deliver to hand, no big deal. You can also bring treats and toys on course with you and working.
Oh, nice.
So it's great for dogs that need that encouragement. Personally, for my own dogs, I skip working. If my dogs aren't ready to do champion, I just don't. But I get it. Like if people just want to go try and their dog picks up antlers and they want to just go have fun, or you have a puppy that you just want to go try with, do working. It's super easy to just go enter. Again, you do need the off-leash reliability though.
Yeah.
So don't take a dog that's never been off leash. That's a terrible idea. So champion is the dogs have to pick up 5 antlers on course, all 5 antlers. Once the dog makes contact with the antler, you cannot move. You stay in place. And let me tell you, you can get screwed. If your dog goes and touches, and it's just a touch. It is not mouthed. It is, if your dog touches that antler and they don't, and the judge sees it, they tell you stop. The judge will tell you to stop if you don't physically see it happen. And until that specific antler is back in your hand, you're stuck.
You're a statue.
So you are stuck in place. So that is a full retrieve to hand. Within 15 minutes, you have to do 5 antlers. Or sorry, it's 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes. I haven't competed in a little while. I'm getting ready for a competition here soon, so I need to remind myself of the rules.
So 10 minutes, 5 antlers. So that's essentially 2 minutes per antler.
Yep.
And
the fast dogs compete sub 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So the way titling works is for your championship title, you need 10 passes total. So as long as you get all 5 antlers in your 10-minute allotted time, that's a pass or 10 points.
That's one pass.
That is one pass.
So
that's one pass towards your championship title. I believe working is 6 passes, so 60 points. All the champion titles in UKC in general, as across all dog sports, is 100 points. So that's just a baseline for UKC. That's how they run their events, is you have to have 100 points in that specific sport to get a championship. You can get your championship faster if your dog places. So they place 1st through 4th. And I believe 1st place is, I think it's 30 points. And then it goes down from there. So you can get a championship done pretty quick if your dog is placing placing high and getting first places. Beyond that, there is an elite title, which I believe the dog has to get 3 first place finishes after their championship. And those first places are very coveted.
I can believe that.
It's difficult.
And it is
the
that
fastest time I think I've had was 5 minutes. So, and that's just because my dogs are super thorough and I don't want to discourage that. Honestly, I don't care about placings in like it's great. It's great if my dogs place, but in reality, I'm a bit against a bunch of like super fast Labradors that are on their owner's heels, searching through those quadrants super fast. And my dogs, I teach my dogs to quarter a field, so they go back and forth on course to scent. And that is, it's just not like time wise, it's not super efficient if you're trying to go for like fast times. But I want my dogs to hunt thoroughly because I actually hunt my dogs.
Yeah.
So that's just the way I handle things personally.
Yeah. Okay, so when you become a statue,
yes.
Can you speak?
Yes, you can talk to your dog.
Okay.
You can talk to your dog.
You're a mute statue.
I didn't know.
Yeah. No,
like,
you can't. So
question.
You're allowed to use a whistle on course. Which in the beginning I used a whistle, and then I kind of changed my training style and I don't use a whistle anymore. I used a whistle because I started with hunt tests before I did the shed dog stuff. And in hunt tests, you're with another dog. And so it's kind of, I don't know, it's a good way to distinguish yourself from the other handler when you're doing AKC pointing dog hunt tests. So I felt like I should transfer it over, and then I just kind of threw that away once I got my like own training style as far as the shed dogs are concerned. And now I sing to my dogs. We have kind of a language that I use on course for competitions. So now I'm super blind and I never see the antlers. Honestly, I don't see them. Oh, and also, okay, so here's something I forgot. Side note. In working and champion, the antlers are not covered. So you should be able to physically see them. Like I said, I'm blind. I will literally step on an antler before I see it. So that is neither here nor there. That's just my own personal problem. Mm-hmm. In champion, the antlers are covered, or at least partially covered. One of them has to be completely covered. So that's like underneath a pile of branches. They can be partially in water. They can be, there's a lot of challenges that you can face in champion. One of my almost failed passes for Stevie's championship was a pile of raccoon poop next to an antler. Yep.
Wow, that is rough.
My God.
So
never.
It's I mean, you never know what's going to happen on course. So
and delivered
that's
to
just
hand.
what that is.
And delivered to hand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Delivered to hand. So back to my song that I do with my dogs. When I'm training my dogs, if I see them go on scent and have that body change, because you guys know from scent work, I don't know, have you done any scent work, Christy?
Yeah, with my last dog, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in scent work, typically, I mean, unless your dog is like super, like doesn't give a lot of body language, you can physically see a body change when the dog goes on scent. So when I see my dog go on scent, I start saying, find it, find it, find it. And as they hone into that antler and that scent, say, find it, find it. And then as soon as I can tell they're on top of that antler, I say, fetch it up. And that's their sign to go pick that antler up. And so that's just what I do with my dogs. I mean, everybody has their own handling style, and it's just that's just the way my dogs and I communicate on course. Basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. Yeah.
And I will throw out for like people who listen who are not into the sports, or like, oh, I don't think I would ever see that in my dog. Let your dog do a sniff walk, and you will see the body change when they find a scent. I mean, for my current
or just watch your dog in the yard.
Yeah, it's always poop that he finds.
Oh, totally.
But his body changes. Like, it's like,
Mhm.
wait, I got a good smell. I gotta
Yep.
find that. And that the body
The
does
scenting
change.
aspect is really important to it,
Yeah.
and learning the wind. So when
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
wind and it's super hot and it's super dry, it's hard. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Because the scent
And
doesn't move at all. It just
yep,
sits.
yep. And so one thing I tell people is if it's a hot, dry day, now you can bring a water bottle on course with you for your dog. I always bring water on course with me because your dog can't, you can't touch your dog on course, but you can give them water on course.
Mm.
So, like, if my dog seems like they're super hot on course and their nose is dry, I bring them over, I have them check in with me, and I wet their nose, and that helps them scent better.
Oh.
So it's just tricks of the trade that you learn as you go.
Yeah.
But honestly, the majority of it is knowing how to read the wind and knowing how to work your dog into the scent correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So
And so, how do you usually start training the sport?
it depends on the dog. So you do not have to start with a baby puppy. That's like
Okay.
my preference if I'm starting a dog as a baby puppy, but like I've started dogs of all ages. Literally, it doesn't matter what age your dog is. If they have the desire to pick up objects and bring them to you, like I said, your dog's pretty likely to enjoy shed hunting, just in
Huh.
general. Now, some dogs are totally offended by antlers, honestly. Like
Oh,
it's weird. It's a weird object to ask your dog to just like go
Yeah.
in and pick up.
It's kind of a
So,
weird like texture, kind of, and
mhm.
then the pointiness of some of them, and yeah.
Yeah. So if you think that your dog is going to be weirded out by the antler, I recommend starting with a rubber training antler. And those are
oh,
pretty easily accessible online. With my baby puppies, before they even go home, I throw antlers in the hallway for them. So I just do like a little tiny spike or forked antler in the hallway, and I just get or a closed room or wherever that's not distracting to the puppy,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And that's how I test to see if my puppies are interested or not. And I will say, I have had quite a few puppies go home now that have naturally picked up antlers with no training.
Yeah.
They have only had one contact of antlers in their lifetime and will go out hiking with our humans and go pick up antlers out in the forest. I mean, and it's super cool. I love hearing that kind of stuff because I don't know if genetically that is passed or not. I'd like to think so because
Yeah.
if I breed two dogs
seems
that
like
are
it.
like
Yeah.
shed
I feel like it
oriented,
would
I would
be.
like
Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to think that that's the case, and maybe it's just because our dogs are predisposed to wanting to pick things up for us because they're a retrieving breed,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So anyway, I start in the hallway or in a closed room, just tossing the antler and encouraging the retrieve. If my dog isn't retrieving in the beginning, no big deal. I just want them to be interested in the thing,
In the
basically.
object. Yeah.
And I just build it from there. Once they're bringing it to me pretty reliably, then I go out in the backyard. You can shape the retrieve if it's something you really, really want to do with your dog. And I have done the whole clicker training from start to finish with an antler, and it's just a slow process because you just have to understand that level of dog training.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely effort,
Mm-hmm.
but if you want to do it, I think you can get it done, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Once they are retrieving in the house, we take it out in the yard and I just toss antlers for them in the backyard. Once they are to the point that their distractions in the yard aren't such a big deal for them, then I will start making them sit or have someone hold them and go and place the antler, come back to the dog, send it to the antler,
Oh.
ask them to retrieve. Now, my dogs, by the time we're doing that, they have a sit stay and that kind of stuff. So
Sure.
I can typically reliably do that, but it just depends on the dog.
Yeah.
When I take a board and train, although the dogs technically aren't coming to me for obedience, that's foundational level things that I require of the dog. So if they don't already have it, I'm teaching that
Mm-hmm.
basically. So the sit stay or down stay or whatever kind of stay you need to do, if you need to put the dog behind a fence and make them watch you throw the antler and then release them out of the fence to go retrieve the antler because you don't have a secondary person that can help you, you can also do that. After that, I will ask them to watch me go and hide the antler behind an object. So if I have a bush in my backyard, I'll make them watch me go and hide it behind the bush. From there, it's just you start the hunting game. It's asking them, find the bone. And every time I send them on a retrieve, it's find the bone, find the bone, find the bone. You can use whatever word you want for it, but that's just what I use is find the bone because it's easy. And it's a word that I don't use for any other reason.
Yeah, you're not going to
basically.
say that in normal life usually.
No, definitely not.
Not the PetSmart, you know,
Yeah.
find the bone.
Yep. So find the bone is what I use. I've got to credit Jeremy Moore of I think his company is Bone Dog or something like that. He's who I like initially learned all the antler turning stuff from, and then kind of developed my own from there. I definitely don't like follow his program, but he's who I got all my ideas from essentially, and that's his thing that he uses is find the bone. So trademark Jeremy Moore. And then it's just expanding the hunt. So once your dog is finding hidden ones in the backyard, it's going out beyond and finding ones that are hidden out in a forest or whatever, you know, and it's just making your hunt greater and greater and greater. And once they're, so to backtrack a little bit, once they're doing one consistently, then I start adding more.
Okay.
And it's just kind of, it's dependent on the dog. Sometimes you can add 2 or 3 right away, or sometimes they get overwhelmed and shut down.
Yeah.
So it's very, very dependent on the dog and how the dog is progressing in the process.
So if you had, this is not on the list, but usually that's
There's always a
Christy.
few.
Yeah.
There's always
So
something.
if you had a dog who you were starting out that didn't have a reliable recall, you could start it potentially maybe on a long line and build the drive for the game, and then also work on that recall at the same
and that's a great way to build a relationship with your dog as well. And I mean, a lot of my board and trains, I will start on a long line. Once we start pushing the boundaries as far as that's concerned, I will put them on a long line just so I can reel them in, because sometimes they'll go from being really, really great in the yard, and then you take them out and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to go take this antler under a tree and chew on it now because I've got freedom. So then I can reel them in and physically make them bring it to me.
Yeah.
I never want them to win the antler for themselves. It is a relationship building thing for me and my dog. No matter what dog I'm working with, no matter what dog I'm handling, if I'm being paid to handle the dog or it's one of my personal dogs, I treat objects, no matter what the object is, as that thing is mine until it's yours. And we're relationship building every time I bring that object out. So I never, ever, ever, ever let my dog chew on antlers.
That was one of my questions. I figured not.
Ever.
Yep. I figured not, because you're like breaking the whole thing yourself by letting them have it.
Exactly. You are essentially telling them, yeah, it's okay. You can go pick up an antler and go hide under a bush and chew on it. And I mean, obviously we're talking about the competition variety, but if you're wild shed hunting your dog and it decides, oh, I picked up an antler, I'm going to go fuck off into the forest now.
Yep.
You're screwed. Your dog's gone.
Yep. I totally get that.
Yeah. So that's definitely a factor. If you have, and I have gotten plenty of dogs in that previously have chewed on antlers, and it's not been a huge hurdle to leap over. It's just not really desirable to even have that problem to begin with, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so originally we were going to ask you, it sounds like it's a rigorous physical activity, and do you recommend conditioning? But now that we've learned more, I'm kind of thinking Christy and I were like on the wrong track with that question, because
Heather and I thought this was going to be
miles.
Like your dog runs 26 miles in a day.
I don't know what because we didn't know.
We didn't know.
I mean, if you're going to be wild shed hunting your dog, absolutely. Like it is very physically demanding to ask your, because essentially, although it just depends on the dog. So Axel, which was a previous dog that I handled, Major, which is a previous dog that I handled, they were both wild shed hunting dogs.
Okay.
Those dogs disappear out of sight for miles and miles. You have them on their tracker, and you're basically trusting the process.
Wow. Okay.
Yep,
So, but those dogs are already conditioned because if they're
exactly.
doing that type of hunting, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will say for competition shed hunting, I think for the humans and the dogs, it's more physically involved than people think it is,
Okay.
than
Yeah.
you think it is on a closed course, because if you have a fast dog, you are like trying to keep up with your dog on this hard terrain. And also, those dogs are expending every bit of their lung and scenting capacity, and they are working very hard
Yeah.
scenting for those items. So, yeah, I mean, 10 minutes doesn't seem like a lot, but when you have a dog that is just balls to the walls, running through that course and working really, really hard to scent that antler, it is physically grueling. And I do think that there is an aspect of conditioning that definitely needs to be recognized
Yeah.
for sure.
But if you're training your dog to be successful in it, then I would think that they're also building that
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, that. And I mean, really, Christy, now that I'm feeling a little silly because we know what our dogs get out of doing a small scent work search in our house.
Yeah.
So that does track that if you're on a course and you're doing this, it would be physically and mentally exerting
Yep.
to do
Mentally,
it.
physically, emotionally, it's a lot of work for the dog.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, my dogs are like done for the day after I do a shed
Sure.
session.
Yeah.
And
And
I'll only do, a 5-minute session, and
Yeah.
they're good. They're happy. And it's just because the biggest thing I want to put forward about shed hunting is in general is, yes, you can use rewards in the beginning, but my ultimate goal is that retrieve is the reward for the dog. And they get so much value out of going out and doing that thing for me that that's it. They're happy. They're fulfilled. That is what they want to do, is go and be fulfilled by finding animals. And it's the same thing with birds. Obviously, with bird dogs, that's just naturally a reward for them. They're excited to go pick up that bird. The bringing it back is not always the happiest thing for them, because they'd rather just go hoard it for themselves. But same with antlers, you know?
Yeah. And I'm thinking with the conditioning too, if you think about it, like a football field is not tiny.
That's
Like
true.
No.
it's doable, but it's not tiny. It's not like a 5-meter
Mhm.
sprint. It's a long,
And it's not just a football
very,
field, it is hills and climbing
yeah.
and,
And then
you know,
Oh,
so I'm thinking like football field, but then you start thinking a river that runs through it, and rocks,
mhm,
and a mountain, and hills, and
yeah.
grass, and bushes, and it becomes a lot more than
mhm.
just a small gated area.
A little
Yeah.
evening stroll on a football field. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, and even just like think about running back and forth on a football field. How many times do you think you could actually physically sprint a football field?
Zero, because
Zero.
Exactly.
Exactly zero.
that's a good
Same.
point. Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
So, and also just think about going out and throwing a ball that far a couple times for your dog. If they're not
Yeah.
like in good physical condition, that is difficult for them,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
We know your breed is the German Shorthair Pointer, but can any breed participate and play in this game?
So I would like to say that the German Shorthair is kind of a minority,
Oh, okay.
Oh,
actually.
so we just
I think,
assumed because you have pointers that all
yeah,
GSPs do
We
this.
are making all sorts
I
of
know,
assumptions
like,
We're
here.
kicking ass over here.
I know like two other people in existence that have actually like gone and gotten passes on German Shorthairs,
Okay, so
just
what's
in
the
general.
is it just retrievers that are normal?
Yep.
Yeah.
So labs, every variety of that, like of retrieving breeds are pretty
Mm-hmm.
common, but labs, they have a specific Labrador Retriever year-end award that they give out
Mm.
every year. And then they
Mhm.
have like an off-breed award that they give out. I think last year a Border Collie won it. And I don't know exactly how any of that works. That's not of my
Yeah.
interest, honestly. I'm just there to go enjoy my dogs and get passes and, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I will say personally, I have seen Rottweilers. I have
Hmm.
seen Malinois, there's quite a few Malinois in my area that compete. There's a lady that runs a club in Texas that's her breed is Malinois, and that's what she does. Some of the retriever people complain that the Malinois chomp on the antlers.
Oh, well, I could see that.
Which
I
is
could
funny.
see that. Have you
One of
seen
my
little
close
dogs?
friends. I have not seen any bulldogs. There are some like mixie mutts that I've seen around that are pretty successful. Border collies. One of my friends runs Australian cattle dogs. I know a couple people actually that run Australian cattle dogs. They seem to really enjoy it. I have not seen any people do Aussies, so that's going to be my next challenge is to bring one of my Aussies that I'm show handling to
I bet.
to shed dog. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I just personally haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. There's one of my really close friends here. Her name is Angela. She has rat terriers, and her rat terriers do shed hunting.
Well, that's a little
that
dog.
makes sense. Yeah.
It's I mean, a rat terrier is kind of a hefty little dog, but it is a little dog.
Yeah.
You know? And so on that note, antlers are in the shed competitions, it is only medium-sized whitetail antlers.
Okay.
So you're not getting monster mule deer antlers or elk antlers or anything like that. It is medium-sized whitetail antlers.
So then any size
poor
dog.
rat terrier is like trying to drag back a moose antler.
out.
I mean, her male Aussie, he picks them right up and carries them. And I will say, Loretta is on the smaller side, as you know, Heather. Loretta is on the smaller side as far as German Shorthairs are concerned. She's 19 inches at the shoulder, and she typically weighs between 38 and 40 pounds. So she's pretty little as far as short hairs are concerned. And I have seen that dog pick up a 20-pound elk antler off the ground and successfully carry it to my hands. So it's just honestly, it's the will and the grit of your dog and their willingness to pick up the antler. I don't think that size or breed or anything like that is a factor. If your dog is willing to hunt for bones, they can do shed hunting.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
It's cool. This is a cool sport.
It is super cool, and it's still very young, I would consider it. I mean, it's only been, I think UKC started in 2016. So we haven't even been 10 years as far as the organization is concerned.
Oh, wow. So when I met you and you that was like way early because we've known each other for several years at this point.
Yep. And I started shed training in 2020 was when I personally started. My first competition was in Kansas. I drove all the way from Arizona to middle of nowhere, Brownell, Kansas. I don't even know what town that would be close to in Kansas, honestly. It was a very long drive, but I wanted to go do it. And so I was committed. Now I believe there's 1 or 2 clubs in California. I know High Desert Dog Sports, the people at the Dobermans.
April.
April. They have a club now. Now, I don't think that they've actually ran any competitions yet, but I know that they have a club. There's like 2 or 3 clubs in Texas. We have 2 clubs in Oklahoma. There's about a bajillion clubs in Missouri.
Yeah.
So there's a club in Colorado now, I think.
So it's emerging.
And it's honestly, it's super easy to start a club. You just kind of got to know what you're doing as far as training is concerned, because if you want to like spread the awareness of shed dogs, you need to be able to train and show people how to train.
Yeah. So what do you like most about this sport? Why is this one of the sports that you love?
So I really gravitate towards this sport because the people are just really nice, honestly. There are overly competitive, overly serious people in every aspect of dog sports. That's just a fact, honestly. But as far as club wise that I've gone to, everyone is super welcoming and encouraging. And honestly, everybody just wants to see each other get passes, because there's nothing that sucks more than getting stuck on course and timing out because your dog touched an antler and then didn't want to go back to it, you know? And so the judges, everybody that's a judge compete. And so it's just a really, really welcoming sport. No matter what breed you have, everybody just wants to see everyone get past. And that's like super, it's just feel good, honestly. And
Yeah.
honestly, I'm a ribbon whore. I will not deny it. I love ribbons. And the ribbons on the Shed Dog series are pretty damn good. Like the prizes
Ooh.
and the ribbons, and there's always raffles, and sponsorship prizes, and giveaways. And I won a Rufflin water at one of them. They do really great prizes. And
Wow.
like my champion ribbon for Stevie, it's huge. It's
Mhm.
huge, and I love it. Like it's awesome. I'm just like I can't deny it. I'm a ribbon whore. And so that is like totally a factor for me is that every pass you get like a full rosette, which is awesome because
Wow.
we're used to these like skimpy
Oh.
little flat ribbons, you know?
Yeah.
So I think
Ooh.
a couple of the clubs are like starting to skimp out because they're like, we don't have to spend that much money. I'm like, no, we want the rosette.
You want
Yeah.
the fancy ribbons.
We
You
want
started it. You must keep going.
So, and also every club event that I've been to, they feed you breakfast and lunch.
What?
Wow.
Yes, I'm not kidding. It's just what they do, and I don't know if it's just like a Southern hospitality thing because that's just kind of where it originated, is all these
Yeah.
like Southern states like Mississippi and Missouri, and all those were like the original areas that the clubs were
Mm-hmm.
started. But literally every event that I've been to, there will be like a small breakfast, like donuts and stuff, and coffee, and full lunch. It's awesome, and it's just
Wow.
like included in your entry fees because also, entry fees are super cheap. I think the most I've paid for an entry fee per run is $40.
Wow.
And you do one run per day. So some people do 3 days, some people do 2 days. It just depends on what the club wants to put on.
Mm.
So it's just
Yeah.
fun to have that camaraderie with people, you know?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, obviously, we wanted to do the sports series so people could learn about different sports, but then also
Hmm.
see places where they could get involved. So to have you say the reason you love this sport is because people are so welcoming,
Hmm.
that's awesome because that makes people feel like they don't have to worry that maybe it's their first time and they can just
Yep.
come in and
Yep.
somebody's going to help them.
Yep. And it's not like barn hunt where it's you got to know the rule book.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there are rules, but if you have a question on course, you can ask the judge. I
Yeah.
mean, beyond like paying attention to my dog, I talk with the judges while I'm on course, you know.
Yeah.
All the judges are really friendly and knowledgeable, and if you have a question, you can ask. You
Yeah.
know, hey, am I doing this right? Whatever. If you have a question before or after your course, you can ask questions, and it's very welcoming, and I think it's very accessible for people.
Mhm.
That's another thing I really like about just like shed hunting in general is comparative to agility or hunting like field trials or hunt tests. I mean, that is a very involved. I mean, you have to have birds, you have to have all the equipment or have a trainer that you can go to travel, you know,
Mhm.
as far as that's concerned. So even if you never make it to the competition point in shed hunting, you can still like go out in the forest or whatever, go up to Flagstaff and go set some
Mhm.
antlers out in the forest and have your dog hunt for antlers. You know, it's very
Absolutely.
like so, you know, go buy some. There's a few different websites that sell antlers that you can, you know, buy shed antlers, or I'm not really
I
sure like
even saw at Shields, because we got a Shields in Arizona
mhm.
finally, but like they
I
have
know.
the like
Exciting.
shed and it says for competition, shed antler and scent,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
that they
And
sell.
typically
Mm.
those just come with a rubber antler. I don't know, are they selling actual antlers?
You know what? I didn't look that close. I'm
I'm
gonna be
gonna say it's
honest.
probably
I
just a
like
rubber antler.
passed by and thought, oh, that's something to keep in mind if I want to
I'm
train my
not
foster
sure. I
this.
also don't know corporate legality as far as selling
Mm.
antlers is
Mhm.
concerned. Obviously, private party, it's fine. And
Yeah.
but like some states, I think there's certain areas in Colorado that it is illegal to pick up antlers. So
Oh.
know
Oh,
your state, know your game and fish regulations if you're going to be wild shed hunting.
Oh.
Um, because some places it is illegal to pick up
Huh.
antlers.
Interesting. I
So
would have
just
never
a
thought that.
FYI, most places, no, it's fine. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But like in Arizona, Oklahoma, Texas, it's whatever.
Yeah.
They're on the ground, pick them up. What's something that's weird that I learned is that squirrels eat antlers.
Squirrels?
Yeah, squirrels. Yep, they chew them up. I have no idea why, but they eat
There
them.
must be some nutrition in there for them.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Or
but
maybe
there's a
they
lot of
just
squirrels
want
around here.
maybe they just want a little enrichment.
I guess so. Maybe
Maybe they're
they want to shed
making
hunt.
miniature shivs.
The squirrels are making shanks.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
The squirrels are making shanks to rise up against the raccoons.
There you go.
Yes.
What is a favorite or most memorable moment that you've had with your dogs in practicing or competing in shed hunts since you started in the sport?
So I'd like to bring up Axel now.
Oh, Axel.
Oh, Axel. So
Okay, wait,
Axel,
can I just say,
please talk about Axel.
when we went to dock diving nationals, I got to sit dockside and Axel sat in my lap and hung out with
The
me. And
best
this
boy.
dog, I mean, how much does he weigh? He's a big
Like
boy.
70, maybe 75 pounds,
Yep,
depending on
he
like.
just, hung out, sat in my lap, and was the best little big boy ever. I
He's
adore
the
that
best
dog.
boy.
I
Oh
adore
my
him.
God. Axel.
All right, that's
Axel
my
is
Axel
his
story.
Axel is his own persona. He's got a fan club. So Axel is Stevie's dad. I was blessed to take Axel. Let's see, I think it was about a month after I got Stevie, I was given Axel to train by his previous owner. And Axel, it's so weird because he's such a different dog now. All Axel had ever done was shed hunt. That was his job. He had done some bird training when he was a younger dog, but all he had ever done was shed hunt. And so go out and search for elk antlers in northern Arizona. And this dog was a machine.
Mhm.
But you walk in the door and he is barking on the other side of the house, doesn't want to go near you, doesn't want anything to do with stranger humans, which is so funny because that's like totally not him now.
No.
I know that you like can't even imagine that being him at all. So I took Axel, and to socialize him, I started taking him to dock diving. And I was like, oh, well, we'll go to Sandy's. Everyone here knows Sandy and loves Sandy. And let's see, I think Sandy was the first pool I took him to. And threw a bumper off the dock, and that dog just flew. And I was like, hey, Jason, you want to do this thing with your dog?
This thing called dock diving.
This funny thing called dock diving that you don't know anything about because you're a bird and shed dog trainer and that's all you do. And so Axel and I started this journey together, and I mean, immediately had extreme success in dock diving, and it just like it completely turned his personality around, like 100%. I remember the first competition I took him to, which was Fort Huachuca. I think that's where you met him the first time, actually.
Actually, I think it is.
Yep, I think that was the first time, and he was a little weirded out by the banners and the speakers and everything, but he jumped like 13 the first time, and then the second time he jumped like 18, and it just like went up from there. His personal best is like a 28.6, I think.
This dog's amazing, Christy.
He's incredible. He is such an athlete. And so after I did all this relationship building with him, then we started shed hunting. And my goal was to clean up his retrieve because he would like do this thing where he would just like run around circles with his antler, like just showing it off.
Why wouldn't you?
Showing it off, running, circling. And so I fixed his obedience as much as you can fix a 2-year-old dog that has a lot of life opinions. Honestly, we all know Axel is a big boisterous dog, and that's just his personality, and so I feel like it's more like shaping the dog than it is actually necessarily totally fixing problems. It's making it their idea, not your idea.
Yeah.
So, and then I was like, okay, I think this dog is ready to go do a competition. And his previous owner had done some competitions with his other dogs, but had not competed. Axel was just a little over 2. He had been bred for the first time. He very much was in his like hormonal teenager phase and just needed to get his brain in his head. And I felt like I'd had him for about 6 months, and it was time for his first competition. So we packed up the dogs and traveled all the way to Kansas. And first time on course, he just smoked it, man. I mean, he was just like,
Wow.
I mean, I get goosebumps talking about it right now. We were going through a cut cornfield, and that dog hit every antler one after another, and it was just straight to hand and back out, straight to hand and back out. And honestly, that's like one of my favorite memories with him is our first pass, and that was such a big moment for me as someone who, I mean, I went in there, I hadn't read the rule book, I didn't know what I was doing, I just went on course and did and followed my dog. I am very grateful to Axel for being such a good, reliable boy. And he went 10 straight passes, no fails. And
Wow.
yeah, which is like not very common, honestly.
Yeah.
Just as far as like dogs are concerned, because you get stuck in weird situations, like your dog touched an antler and then you were stuck and you couldn't show your dog,
Yeah.
how to work through the course or whatever. And Axel had a problem that he only did this to me at home, thankfully. He would pick up an antler and then he'd spot another antler, set the last antler down, go pick up the next one, and then but his memory is just incredible. He would remember where he left that antler and go back to it and pick it up. But it
Huh.
was him on purpose wasting time
Yeah.
because he didn't want to be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like dogs who
And
catalog and barn hunt.
absolutely,
Yeah.
100% cataloging, totally.
Yeah.
And so 10 straight passes, and Stevie and I, his daughter, went on to do 10 straight passes for her Shed Dog Championship.
Oh,
Yep.
what? That's
And
amazing.
yeah, although I don't have Axel anymore, he is in a very loving home in New Mexico with a very lovely girl named Kelsey Boswell. And he's doing all the dock diving and quail hunting and doing all the things. And I'm very, very excited for him. I'm just grateful that I have Stevie, and so I'll always have like
A
a piece of
piece.
him.
So if people are interested in shed hunting, what would you suggest they do to get involved?
As far as competition hunting is concerned, I highly recommend going to the UKC Elite Shed Dog Series page on the UKC website. They have a full list of clubs that you can contact. Now, some clubs are or they aren't active. It just kind of it depends on the area and who's running them and whatever. Some clubs are really involved and run training days regularly, or they have good resources for sending your dog to a board and train or finding lessons or whatever. If you're directly in Arizona, I can get your resource. We can get you in contact with Megan. If you're in the Oklahoma or surrounding states areas in Oklahoma, I'm a resource. I am going to be offering board and trains in the future here, hopefully pretty soon again. And I can do lessons, that kind of thing. But as far as just like generally getting involved in the sport, I would say going to the club page and figuring out a club that's local to you or someone local to you that somebody could give you a resource. Or if you are really local to a club, attending an event. What's nice about the UKC clubs is that people like really plan in advance. So the events on the event list will be like a year out.
Oh,
You can even
wow.
find events. Yeah. So it's just whenever the club submits their application for the event and gets the weekend, and spectators are generally welcome. I would recommend in advance probably asking the club, but generally every club that I've been to has been really, really welcoming for spectators. And you can go, some clubs let you even follow on course with the handlers. I
Wow.
mean, typically on course, it's you, the judge, and there is also a scribe with the judge. And so, I mean, I've taken people out on course with me that have just want to like go and see the thing. Because the problem is some of the courses you really can't see anything unless you're on top
Yeah.
of this. So that is another warning I want to kind of give to people is that unfortunately this isn't human reactive dog friendly. Now, dogs should be on leash in general in the camping and hanging out areas, but people do air their dogs off leash in the area. So you just need to be aware of keeping your dog in check if it is dog reactive. But like on course, obviously you're not going to see a dog.
Yeah.
So there is that. I just like to give that warning because,
Yeah.
you know, reactive dogs exist in our hemisphere
Everywhere.
of sport dogs.
Mhm.
And, you know, everybody's dog is a little different. So it just kind of depends on how good your dog is off leash, just
Yeah.
in general. But
Yeah.
generally, I think it's pretty accessible. It just kind of depends on your region.
Oh my goodness, this was very cool.
I'm so glad you guys liked it.
Cool.
Thank you so much for joining us and teaching us and all of our listeners all about Shed Hunt. I think it's awesome, and I just really enjoyed learning about it.
Well,
Same.
thank
Yeah.
you so much. I appreciate you guys giving me the time to speak and taking the, you know, time out of your life to do this. I think it's super cool. It's definitely not a project that I would try to head myself, so I commend you for doing such.
Thank you so much, and we'll link all the information where people can get in touch and all the different resources in the show notes.
If you've enjoyed this episode, subscribe, rate, and share us wherever you get your podcasts. Also, come on over to Instagram and engage with us at Sometimes There's Side Eye.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.